And I'm here to not emotionally devastate you this time. This is The Devil Went Down to YouTube. I heard a knock on the door, but had no intention of answering it. I'd already decided who I was voting for in the city, state, and national elections. We rented and therefore had no ability to switch to the greener power company. There was nothing pending from FedEx or UPS, and I was in the middle of cooking another dinner someone in my lovely family was certainly going to complain about, and was thus relatively certain no one had ordered food, especially considering the amount of tablet time lost to consequences. The one time my 8-year-old daughter had masterminded the phone heist, and she and her older brother ordered pizza because my homemade macaroni and cheese felt sandy when they chewed it. The bell rang again, and my nosy as fuck, she's curious, girl child thundered down the stairs and hauled the door open before I could yell, "God damn it, how many times do I have to tell you not to?" Which was as far as I ever got with that particular inquiry as applied to mysterious visitors, because she loved them as much as I loathed them. "Hello, darling," a bourbon-burned British manicured voice said. "Is your mom home?" "Mom!" Dora bellowed. "Lucifer's here!" If my life were a sitcom, this would be where the sound editor would put the record scratch and then the squeaky rewind, and the VFX team, the horizontal static VHS rewind no one even understands anymore. A voiceover which would explain you were being treated to an intimate recap of my childhood and adolescence broken into 24-minute segments, the vast majority of which were horrifically cringeworthy and certain to make you feel better about your own awkward early days. As I got older, you'd see me admit I needed therapy because my parents loved my middle sister the most, and watch me struggle with self-confidence, realize my pansexuality, and get talked out of both an art history degree and a master's in museum studies. Everyone would eventually get bored with the mundanity of it all, and the show would be canceled 3 episodes into season 3, which means everyone would miss my fiddle competition with the devil at the crossroads at midnight in rural Georgia, which would be a shame because I won. No, I'm not kidding. I turned the burner down under my bolognese and headed to the front hall where Lucifer was asking my daughter, "How's baseball, Zora?" "Hit a home run yesterday," she told him, and jumped to slap him high five when he held out his hand for her to do so. "Well done." "Mom, can Lucifer stay for dinner?" "We'll see. Is your homework done?" "Yeah." "Is it really?" She glanced at me, lips pursed, and then her gaze slid to the Prince of Lies. "Don't look at him," I chided. "This is my domain, kiddo." "Ugh, fine, I'll go finish." That's what I thought. "Tell your brother dinner in 15. "Izzy, dinner in 15, she yelled from the third step and right into my ear. "Come in before you give Mrs. Gleason a heart attack. Again." I stepped inside and let the devil into my front hallway. Shoes off, I tossed over my shoulder as I headed back to the kitchen to stir my tomato sauce. Have we forgotten the Lego incident of 2019? You're the one who gave botulism a lifespan out of the human body. I did, didn't I? One of my better schemes to drive first-time parents absolutely mad. He shrugged out of his impeccably tailored suit jacket as he followed me through the small room and draped it over one of the counter height chairs, eyeing whatever it was that was sticky and attracting fruit flies on the table. "I'm sure you're wondering why I'm here in your very humble abode. Same reason you're always here, except when you need book recommendations, I'm not giving it back." "You didn't even give me a chance to." I turned around and leaned my butt against the counter, arms crossed over my chest, and let myself smirk a little. "Lucifer." "Ugh, fine." The bespoke shirt with French cuffs and black pearl buttons whispered as he threw his arms up in the air. "Dad's asking for it." I snorted. I couldn't help it. I tried to help it, but I couldn't. "What's he gonna do? Ground you?" "Oh, wait. Har har. Contrary to popular belief, I didn't fall. I jumped. Yeah, the same way people resign before they get fired. You're not the only one whose parents favored other siblings." Ouch. I deadpan, pressing one hand to my chest and the back of my other hand to my forehead. You wound me, sir." "Come on, Morgan. Look, everyone knows you won. It's been immortalized in song. Isn't that enough?" "Lucifer, I am not giving you back the fiddle." He stepped closer, leaving only enough space for a pleasant warmth between us for the words, "I'm sure we can come to some arrangement," to drop one at a time from his lips, draft over his stubble, and twist up to my ear. I made it 3 breaths before I burst out laughing. He huffed, annoyed, and grabbed the wooden spoon leaning against the handle of the saucepan, stirring the meat sauce. How is it that works on every being in the known universe except you? Because I know you, and because it came with the fiddle. Yes, yes, the ability to read the depths of the former owner's soul. At least you know you still have one. I am positively abuzz with joy. My son Izzy ambled into the kitchen. Hey, Mom. Hey, Lucifer. He popped the fridge and started rummaging. Honey, we're eating in like 10 minutes. His hand appeared over the lip of the door with an apple. Lucifer barked a laugh. Yeah, okay, fine. I agreed. Izzy closed the door, which bounced open twice before it stuck, and hitched himself up onto the washer. Isn't it a pomegranate? He asked the devil between bites. Mom said it was a pomegranate. It was, Lucifer agreed, but your lot went with the apple, so it still amuses me. Izzy crunched a few more mouthfuls before he asked another question. Did Mom really win that fiddle from you? Seriously? You're fact-checking with Satan, I asked, checking the garlic bread I had made because my apparently traitorous son had begged for it. He was there, right? She did. Lucifer said your mother was quite a fiddle player in her youth. You make it sound like I'm a crone. Not quite a crone. I can point on that Seasons of Man poster if you'd like me to be more specific. I let you in, I can kick you out. You can, but you won't. You think I'm charming. I really don't. I put the water on to boil for pasta because even if Lucifer was chatting with my son in the kitchen, I still had to feed the monsters before I lost the bedtime window, especially while the Hubs was out of town, and especially if the BFF and I had any hopes of getting in an episode of Warrior Nun before I passed out. Yes, you do, as he said. You said so last time he was here. Lucifer turned around, mouth a perfectly faux dramatic O, eyes comically wide. Izzy? Yeah, Mom. Eat your apple. I'm done. He held up the still half intact fruit before tossing it onto the counter, where it was certain to attract more fruit flies instead of putting it into the garbage, which was, in fact, closer. Isidore, what? I held up both of my hands, palms to the ceiling, raising my eyebrows and shaking my head. What? Not your maid. I know. Then why are you leaving trash for me to clean up? Oh, sorry. He jumped off the washer and wandered out of the kitchen. Lucifer looked from Izzy's retreating back to the apple core and then to me. What just happened? Fuck if I know. I dumped the pasta into the boiling water. I blame you, but I'm pretty sure it's privileged tween. Categorically not me, though believe me, I would take credit if I could. Okay, what if I just borrow it? The fiddle? You're not borrowing the fiddle. The fiddle is mine. I won it. You lost it. I keep the recap queued up at all times. Did you know Primus did a version? You're horrible. I really am. I stirred the pasta. Izzy wandered back in. I'll play you for it. I choked on my own spit. You will not. Now, let's hear him out, darling. Lucifer folded his cuffs back sharply and precisely before striding into the dining room. He pulled out 2 chairs, neither of which was at the sticky spot, and sat in one of them, sweeping his arm toward the other, as though he had the right to offer hospitality in my home. Excuse you. He ignored me, as did my son, who shook me off when I grabbed his elbow. Isidore. It's okay, Mom. I got this. You most certainly do not got this. This is Satan, not our nice, let's look at this from both sides Jewish Satan, the Christian one who lives in hell and tortures souls. Technically, I'm both, Lucifer said, picking up a stationery and desk supply catalog and thumbing through it. For the record, $1,500 fountain pens are mine. Chill, Mom, I've been practicing. How exactly have you been practicing? I mean, Coach Eric is a total jerk, and I faced him twice this season, and also Ender Dragons. Izzy. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath before opening them. This is not Minecraft, though. Okay, I'm with you on Coach Eric. Coach Eric is totally one of mine, Lucifer said without looking up from the catalog. Don't you always say that I shouldn't start shit, but if someone else does, I should end it? I'd regret that. As much as dessert stomach? Possibly a little bit more right this second. Also, didn't you tell me I needed to be more responsible for my own decisions? Since when do you actually listen to me? Mom, I totally got this. Izzy took the proffered seat. You realize there's a flaw in your plan, Lucifer told him. The fiddle is your mother's. You cannot wager something that isn't yours. Well, I'm in her family. That makes it partly mine, right? I'm afraid that's not how it works, though it's very sweet you want to protect her. My mom's pretty tough. She doesn't need anyone to protect her. I mean, my dad always says if we get carjacked, he's standing behind her. Ah, so you want to test yourself man to man. Well, I saw a YouTube video, and I'm wondering if I can beat you since my favorite YouTuber couldn't. Oh, sweet baby Jesus. Izzy, honey, A noble endeavor, Lucifer said. Do you know what an endeavor is? I'm 10, not an idiot. I see he gets his smartassery from you. Lucifer raised a perfect eyebrow at me. Yeah, I'm pretty proud of that. Which is not going to distract me from the fact that this, I waved my hands a bit wildly and unbalanced a jar of honey, which I somehow managed to catch before it shattered and oozed all over the floor, is not happening. Can't happen because, as Lucifer pointed out, the fiddle is mine, and you, my son, light of my life, first of your name, play the clarinet. I've been watching YouTube videos. So you mentioned, I'm going to smash the router. Other ones about playing instruments. Okay. Guitar. He had asked for my guitar that I had given him. Okay, so you play clarinet or teaching yourself guitar. Guitar and fiddle both have strings. And we're back to smashing. Lucifer beamed. They do, honey, and I don't want to discourage you from branching out, but guitar has 6 strings and fiddle has 4, and you play them like completely differently. Besides, the fiddle is mine, and it's really special to me. You know, I've shared most of my stuff with you and your sister, but even moms have to have a few things for their own. Remember last week when it was raining, the power went out, my tablet died, and I was complaining I was bored, and you had that deadline, and you told me to go find something to do? After you gave me that very enlightening lecture on the virtues of Steves and ocelots? Yes, of course I do. I do not. Okay, well, I was looking for Forbidden Desert in your closet. Why would one of your games be in my closet? I couldn't find it on your bookshelf. Because that's not where we keep the games. Had you looked on the game shelf? That's not where we put it when we brought it back from Graham's house. You know we have game shelves, so we always know where the games are, right? You're getting distracted again. Lucifer snorted. I glared at him. He held his hands up, palms out, and leaned back in his chair, teeth clamped down on his bottom lip, clearly physically restraining laughter. I found the fiddle in your closet. Because my closet is where I keep my stuff. Well, I didn't think you'd mind if I borrowed it. Oh, shit. Lucifer's smile crept up on one side. Isidore, where's the fiddle right now? I asked, acid bubbling in my stomach, burning a brand new ulcer next to the old one, which was also on fire. In my room, I wanted to see if I could play it the same way you played guitar. You play clarinet, I whispered. Lucifer cracked his knuckles. I glanced at him. You should breathe, he told me. I covered the few steps between us faster than I had closed any distance in my life, opened my mouth to speak, and found myself at a complete loss for words. I held up one finger, contemplated jamming it up his nose, and settled on using it along with a few others to scratch my ear as I managed. There is no shouting in cloud recesses. There is no shouting in cloud recesses. You love him. You would die for him. You grew him in your body. This is why he sort of looks like you. You should be thrilled he finally did what you told him to do without repeating yourself 8 billion times. Think of this as a win. So the fiddle's in your room, Izzy. There is no murder in cloud recesses. Yeah, my 10-year-old said. I forgot to put it back. Sorry. His room, his space, his fiddle. His fiddle on a technicality and temporarily, but indisputable in that moment, his fiddle. Don't do it, I warned. The Bolognese burped and started smoking. Lucifer, don't do it. He glanced over Izzy's shoulder at me for half a second, and I'd like to think there was remorse in the fleeting frown, the passing shadows that darkened his gaze. Morgan, he sighed, you should know after all this time. And then he was grinning again, sprouting ragged wings and twisted horns that defied the physics of my small house. With the paint peeling off the ceiling and the cracks in the walls and the missing kitchen cabinet doors, spectral attributes that vanish as quickly as they appeared. I am what I am. Have I mentioned that the kid played clarinet? Once more for the folks in the back. Whether or not the intersection half a block from our house was truly a crossroads was a matter for debate, but so was the veracity of Izzy's claim on the fiddle, and as concerned all things with even a whiff of religion, symbolism was more important than veracity anyway. At least the devil let us eat dinner first. He was quite complimentary, actually. By the time Izzy, and I marched the intersection, most of the other houses in the neighborhood were dark, and the cicadas were kicking up their nightly drama. I hoped the racket might conceal what was certain to be quite the rendition of Cats in Heat by my son, and the shrieking that would ensue when I had to make every attempt to beat the shit out of the devil to save my son's soul, and my former friend and rival folded me summarily in half and left my children to fend for themselves until my husband returned from his trip to Canada, because why would either of them think to call their grandmother who lived 20 minutes away and say, "Hey, Graham, Mom got stuffed in a pneumatic tube container and shot to hell. Can you order us pizza and maybe do some laundry for us so the neighbors don't call the cops on the corpse smell before Dad gets back?" Zora at least was asleep, burritoed in her fleece frozen blanket, despite the fact it was approximately 3,000 degrees, the soundtrack to the completely unnecessary live-action version of an old animated classic, looping on the tablet, arms wrapped around a giant squishy whale. We stopped directly under the streetlight in front of a brick apartment building. The people diagonally had left their goddamn dog outside again, the one who barked at anything that moved and scared the shit out of passersby, despite being a complete himbo if you scratched him between the ears, and let us know he was paying close attention. Lucifer nodded, and Izzy set the case down on the sidewalk. "He's a minor." I had already tried that argument and failed, but maybe I could bore Lucifer into submission. "Doesn't apply to souls. He's 10. He'll wear the same socks until they've converted to stone if I don't remind him to change them. Half the time I have to throw away his underwear because he's too lazy to actually wipe his ass." As someone who's going to be touching something he's touched, I'd prefer not to know that. Let me play instead. It's his fiddle at the moment, Morgan. That is bullshit argument, and you know it. It will stand up in an angelic court. Angels are even bigger assholes than demons. I won't disagree, but the fact doesn't change the law. He made a wager, darling. He has no choice but to go through with it. He's a fucking idiot, Lucifer. All humans are fucking idiots when they're 10. Most humans are fucking idiots until the day they die. Again, I don't disagree. Idiots are granted free will just like everyone else. You're gonna have to let him use his sooner or later. It's only happening a bit sooner than you'd like. You know what's gonna happen the second that fiddle is mine again, don't you? I look forward to it. I've been practicing. I grabbed his shirt and gripped it hard enough that he jerked forward off balance. "Lucifer, you are threatening my son." The devil went pale for a moment and his mouth dropped open ever so slightly. I pushed him away and he brushed the wrinkles out of his shirt, closed his mouth, opened it once more, throat working, and then edged toward the fiddle, keeping his body turned to the side, glancing back at me every few seconds. He picked up the fiddle, started to glow, not reflected light from street lamps or motion-sensitive security devices on the side of apartment buildings, but an internal radiance, opalescent and shimmering, a reverse oil slick that brightened the longer Lucifer's fingers were wrapped around the instrument's neck and bow. "Who goes first?" Izzy asked. "You challenged," Lucifer said, "so it's my choice." He swept a bow and offered the instrument to Izzy with a graceful flourish. "Please, you've so bravely offered to defend your mother's honor." Izzy drew himself up to his full 4 feet 11 inches, took the instrument from the devil. He tucked it under his chin and actually got a grip on the bow that was moderately close to almost correct, drew it across a few strings, made some adjustments with the pegs that were mostly in the right direction. I had never wanted so badly to yeet him into a volcano. For his own safety, of course. Of course. I'd also never heard so terrible a sound as was produced when he drew that bow over those strings. It was worse than when he practiced clarinet. It was worse than when he had screamed when we were sleep training him. It was worse than when I was triaging work phone calls and a woman had decided she needed to hold the receiver right next to her face while she puked. It was worse than the day I had my OR rotation and watched them drill into some dude's skull. It was worse than when my earphone had popped out during dental surgery and had to listen to the team scrape a solid tumor that was supposed to be a fluid cyst out of my jawbone. It was worse than the first time I sat with someone while they took their last breath. It was literally the worst sound I had ever heard, and it kept going and going and going for like 3 whole minutes. You'd have thought the sound of Lucifer's laughing because he knew he had won eternal access to your oldest child's soul would be the worst sound you'd ever heard. But no, I wanted it to be. I wanted to hate it more than I hated the sound my son had produced from those 4 poor strings and that body of gold, but I couldn't. It was an intellectual and emotional impossibility. I had known that it was coming, and yet nothing could have prepared me for the utter horror of what YouTube and my 10-year-old had wrought. I was still going to fight Lucifer for his soul. He was my son, and there was nothing stronger than that bond. It was close, really, really close, really, really, really close. But even if he made that sound every day for the rest of my life, even if I was subjected to it every day for the rest of my life, he was my baby and no one was taking his soul. Even knowing, as I did now, that his soul could produce that horrifying sound and might do it again. Lucifer blinked. He opened his eyes wide and then blinked some more. He stuck a finger in one of his ears and jiggled it around. He clapped his hands together once and then rubbed his palms against one another. He smiled. My turn. I put my hands on Izzy's shoulders. Much to my surprise, they were completely relaxed. Lucifer tucked the fiddle under his chin. He set the bow and pulled it back. A man appeared from around the corner. He had gray hair tied into a short ponytail and a neatly shaped beard. He wore a hoodie, worn and faded but still presentable, and board shorts with a loud Hawaiian print. His flip-flops actually made a synchronized flip-flop sound as he walked. His dog was a tiny, fluffy Pomeranian who pranced happily along in his wake. Lucifer froze. I raised you better than this, the man said to him. Lucifer muttered, dropping his arms so they and the instrument hung by his sides. You were so close this time, Lucifer. One more millennium, and you were finally going to have proven you learned your lesson. Now we have to start all over again. Dad, Lucifer protested, sweat beading on his upper lip. That's not fair. Fair? You stole my fiddle, gambled with it, lost it, lied about it, and now you're trying to use an angelic loophole to get it back and get access to a child's soul? Clearly, you haven't learned anything. The man looked at me. I am so sorry about this. Mom, Izzy whispered, is that? Yeah, but I'm pretty sure it is. God took the fiddle from Lucifer's slack fingers, placed it back in the case, closed the cover, and did the latches. He picked it up and offered it to me. I couldn't. Least I can do. Now, young man, he looked at my son. What have you learned from this? Watch more YouTube before I challenge Lucifer to a fiddle contest? God scratched his nose, waggled his head from side to side. Not the lesson I choose, but not a terrible one. How about you don't take your mom's stuff? That too. Also, angels are dicks. A hearty guffaw burst out from deep within God's chest. That's for sure. He turned around back to Lucifer. You, back to your realm. But it's so hot, Lucifer protested. Whose fault is that? Dad, the devil whined. Lucifer, I love you, but I'm tired of my own voice, and so is Metatron. I promised them a vacation in the early mid-17th century, and now they have to go buy all new clothes for it. We've been having the consequence talk for literally thousands of years, and you still haven't taken it to heart, or even to liver. At least take it to liver. His voice faded away as they reached the next intersection, and their forms, as did their forms, until there was nothing left. Mom? No tablet except for school stuff for a week. Mom, you bet your soul, against your ability to play an instrument you don't play. Against the devil. YouTube is yeah, Mom. You barely play the clarinet. Barely. 3 days, a week, 4 days. We can make it 2 weeks. A week is good. That's what I thought. And kiddo, yeah, Mom, I love you. The end.
Thank you.